Welcome to this episode of Catholic Momcast. It's a very special episode, one I've been looking forward to. We have Allison Gingras today, and we also are bringing back Father Charlie McCoy, and we're going to talk about movies. Welcome, guys.
Nice. Thank
Well,
you.
yeah, we're gonna. So we started off. I think it was in December. We were doing some Advent movies and Christmas movies that we were talking about because Pope Leo had put out a list of his four favorite films. But then, of course, we took it in a wildly different direction. So here we are in Lent.
I anticipate that happening again, just for the record.
Yeah, yeah. So what? Well, let's just talk about it. Father Charlie, what is your fascination with film, and why is this such an important way to evangelize?
Yeah, I've just always loved movies from the time that I was a kid. Movies were just a big part of my family. I'll tell a little bit of a story about these movies in a bit, just sort of how far back those go. But it really is, it's become clear that, especially, as in sort of our contemporary society, how important the visual arts are and how much those can be a way to draw us into contemplation of the Lord. In particular, it is really just kind of astounding the ebbs and flows of kind of religious movies, the history of that. There were tons, in the 50s that we'll talk about a little bit. And then it seemed like there was a long time where there wasn't a lot of religious programming. And now there is again. So in that same way that I think the Catholic faith is drawing renewed interest, I think, film has played a role in that, has had a part in that.
Yeah. Well, what about in families? Because I know that we had a big tradition as kids. Like at Christmas, we would always watch The Grinch, and at Easter, we had a couple of films. That's the wrench I'm going to throw into this later. But Allison, did you have any film traditions when your kids were growing up?
Veggie Tales, does that count? We love the Veggie Tales. It's
Oh
such a
yeah,
great
absolutely.
when they came out with their full length movie, I actually dragged them to the movie theater. And I'm not a big movie buff, but I have found that the ones that I've watched, they do have a profound effect on me. Like Forrest Gump, for some reason, completely off topic, but that movie just wrecked me for days. I just like sometimes,
Wow.
I just think good storytelling has a way of moving your heart, which of course Jesus was the best storyteller ever. So I think that's kind of where that tradition begins, right? Storytelling has a way of moving people's hearts, and then in this case, moving them closer to Christ.
Yeah, for my kids, they would sing, "We are the grapes of wrath. We never take a bath." And that was kind of like their anthem.
Wow.
So I don't know. The jury is out on how influential some of these things can be. Did you guys have? I know that you're close to your one of your sisters. I think is really big into the film thing too, or maybe it was just the Bluey connection that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Father.
Yeah. So my younger sister is in radio. So she worked for Relevant Radio. And but yeah, all of us, again, have always in my family have really loved movies, and they've been very influential. But right, it is my older sister who had the love of Bluey with her two daughters.
That's beautiful. Well, what do you have a favorite movie that defines for you? Maybe Lent or spring or Easter. I know that I have a couple, but I'll give you first dibs.
Me or so
No,
yes.
you go,
Well,
Father. Yeah.
Okay.
no, Allison just went out with the with the Veggie Tales.
I think I lost all my privileges.
I would say for me, it's probably like three different ones that sort of played big roles in my life of faith, particularly around Easter. I would say first, the Zeffirelli Jesus of Nazareth. That used to be a
That was a good one.
broadcast as a mini series when I was a kid on NBC. So my family would watch that together. That would be, that was a real big tradition. Then we had it on VHS, and one time we watched the entire thing on Good Friday, and that
Oh,
was
that's
as
sweet.
yeah, that was a really interesting thing. But none of us could really sleep that night. It's kind of not really the point, but Yeah, so that, and then I would say kind of a Jesus adjacent movie because he's not like the main character, but the 1959 Ben-Hur. That was always just like from the first time I saw that movie just captured my imagination in such a big way. And then
That's amazing.
yeah,
That's my husband's favorite, and I keep saying, and so, you know, Jesus isn't like the main character, and he goes, "Yeah, he is if you think about it." And I'm like, "Okay, Jesus is always the main character. Okay."
exactly. Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no,
What
and
was the
then
next one?
the third one was like this little known production. I mean, the BBC did a cartoon of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in like the late
Really?
70s. And it was broadcast in America with American voices. So they did, because it's a cartoon, so you could just redo the voices. And I mean, that probably was broadcast when I was about 6 or 7. And the depiction of the resurrection scene in that. I mean, I still remember
Hmm.
that, like from the first time I saw it as a kid, and it was so moving and just sort of kind of poetic in the way that they did the resurrection there. And I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I think like seeing that cartoon version, like when I was again probably about 6 or 7, like I think that actually like impacted my life of faith. Like I don't think my life of faith would be the same if I hadn't seen that cartoon as a kid because it just touched my heart in such a deep way. And even though it was this fairy tale, you knew it was the Jesus story.
Oh, wow. I would love to go back and see if I can find that, maybe for the grandkids, because I remember my own children were fascinated with the whole Narnia series. And
It's on
yeah.
YouTube. If you just go
Okay.
on YouTube, the whole thing is there. I assume it's not pirated. I assume it's legal. They, would have taken it down if it were wrong. The cartoon value is very poor, but the story still holds up. I had watched it recently. It's still really really well done, although the actual cartoons are not really super high quality compared to what we sort of expect now.
That sounds great. We had my brother and I. My sister was way younger than us, and so it's past her bedtime. But we used to watch the two-parters, right? That they would put on like right before Easter. So the Ten Commandments for
Yeah.
me was always it was always you're going to watch the Ten Commandments every Easter, and man, the burning bush and poor Moses' head turning completely white. I have not encountered a burning bush in my lifetime, but it's it's happening anyway. But we used to watch that. I was telling you, my husband's favorite is Ben Hur. He also loves the robe, and I cannot speak intelligently to the robe because when he's watching TV, we have such different tastes in everything. I don't know how we've lasted 41 years. I guess maybe that's why. But so I'll do housework while he's watching movies and I'm in and out of the room. And then, of course, I step in at a moment when I get totally invested in the story. And then I'm that person. What happened? What's going on? And but there's a scene at the end of the robe when I guess the protagonist picks up the robe, and I think the crucifixion is off in the distance, and I think that's a really powerful scene. But I
I've
don't.
never heard of this movie ever.
It's one of his favorites, and he won't do the streaming stuff on his in his area, so I have it all on my side of the house, where the grandkids come and congregate. That's where all the things are, and I think I'm gonna just have to replay it
Is it
very
a
soon.
resurrection? Is it like is it a rope? Like is it a resurrection
It's a
story? Like
it's a conversion story.
okay, so
Yeah, I
Jesus
It's
mean,
isn't
a
the main character.
like
well,
like
always the main character.
yeah, so
I
like
had to say that.
right, like Ben Hur, Jesus is not get a lot of screen time. It's not like the narrative is not really about Jesus, and it's mostly post crucifixion. The crucifixion happens within maybe the first 20 minutes or so, and it's about how this plays out. So, just real quick little anecdote that was one of the first movies that my mom saw in the theater. She was 3 years old
Wow.
and her mom, my grandmother, took her to see that. That was the first movie in CinemaScope, so it was like this super like huge production trying to get people to go back to the movies and stuff. And my mom still tells the story of being there with her mother, and at the crucifixion scene, her mother's crying, and she's 3. I mean, she's really little, and so she's like, "Mom, why are you crying?" And her mom's like, "Shh, shh."
Well, That reminds me of like one of my favorites is kind of recent movies, is Risen, where it is post crucifixion.
Right.
And the thing I think I'm drawn to that movie is I've always been kind of drawn to the idea of the hostile witness, those men and
Oh,
women who didn't want to prove Jesus had lived, didn't want to prove that Jesus was had resurrected, didn't want to fuel any fire. In fact, that's the purpose of that, is that he's going to quelch all of the, he's going to find the body and quench what's happening, and then he ends up, spoiler alert, getting Jesus is real, and so he discovers that. I'm going to ruin the end for anybody, but
no
it was just
spoilies.
that's a it's like so hard to talk about religious movies, right? Because everybody knows the story,
Right.
but I think even again, knowing the story, the way that it was recorded, the way that they deal with that doubt that I think every person has in some way, shape, or form, I think it's just done so beautifully. It's one of my absolute favorite Easter movies.
I think that you speak to a really important part about films, especially today, as an audience is a little bit more sophisticated and has, well, again, that streaming opportunity to watch and rewatch and watch again, is the cinematography
Yeah.
of the story that really engages you. And which brings me to the movie that I don't like, which is the greatest story ever told. I can't. That is the most cringe movie ever. And it has nothing to do with the narrative. It has everything to do with how it is presented. An unbelievable Christ. Everybody's so clean.
So
It's
let's
just,
hear more. Let's hear more. I have my own sort of positives and negatives on this
do
movie.
you? Do you? I mean, from a storytelling point of view, I think that it's just line after line of scripture with no expanding what's actually happening, which is not to say that scripture is empty, but you have to, like, I don't know, can I say the exegesis is awful? It's in the film. But poor Van Sydow is just not a believable Jesus. I mean, and again, I think a lot of it has to do with our sensibilities today. I think that they've made, like in The Chosen, they've made a big effort to find folks that maybe look like these characters. Um, what is it? Oh, Allison, help me out here. The literary term for when you don't find it plausible, you don't find it believable, you can't get into the story. Two
Sorry,
teachers cannot come up with this.
clearly I
Father,
wasn't
help.
paying attention that day in my English class.
The suspension of disbelief. The
Oh, there you
suspension, right? The suspension of disbelief in that film is just out the door. It's not. It doesn't do it for me. And again, my husband loves it, and every time he plays it, I'm like, I'm gonna go get a coffee somewhere because I can't even listen to it. And
I don't remember it now. I'm going to have to go back. I know I've seen it, but I clearly didn't like it and never went back again because
I
I
think it's just
remember.
very I think it's just very stylized, and I think it's just era specific in not a good way. Um,
go.
like you can look at old films and say, "Oh, yeah, because the
Hold
film
up, or
noir or whatever."
yeah, I mean, the thing that is crazy about it, reference this a little bit in the email you sent. I mean, it has an insane cast that also is a little distracting because it's like too insane of a cast. Like Sidney Poitier is Simon of Cyrene. So like in
Oh,
Simon of Cyrene is like only in there for like 2 seconds. So you're watching this movie and then all of a sudden it's like that's Sidney Poitier.
that's it.
And then the biggest of all, this is a spoiler, but it's a hilarious sort of spoiler. Is again like the whole movie's going. It's like a 2 second scene at
Oh,
Oh
no.
no.
Oh, no. Okay, before he gets back on, I'm going to predict that he's gonna say it's John Wayne as the centurion at the end. That's my prediction. Oh, my.
That's so
But to
funny.
get But to go on about the movie, I just find yeah, his point is fantastic because it's such a and again, it's so era specific in the film days because when you think about how Hollywood was at that time, it was like really big to have ensembles. And so, that the point that Father was making about it having distracting actors in it, yeah, like I totally get it. Hey, so Father,
Yep,
I
you nailed it. I heard.
did
I can
I
hear
did I
you. It's like out of nowhere. You're like, surely this is the Christ. That's like the
he
dude,
should, he should have said pilgrim at the end, right?
right?
And the amazing part is that
Oh my
that's an
God.
uncredited role. He
Oh, is
doesn't
that
he
right?
yeah, he didn't receive any credit for that at
Oh,
all,
I didn't know that.
which is ridiculous because everybody, like what you just said.
Right. And I can't remember. There are some others in that movie as well where you're like, dang. I mean, I think maybe like Vincent Price is like Pontius Pilate or something. I mean, I
Oh,
could be wrong
wow.
on that one. But there's somebody else who like, oh wait, it's Telly Savalas,
Oh, who was in,
No way.
what was he in? Was he in
Kojak.
No, I know that, but didn't he
Sure.
play like a bigger role somewhere else? Oh, no, I was thinking of the other bald man, Yul Brynner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Right. He played Ramses.
Ramses.
So crazy fact supposedly
Oh,
about
I
Tony
love him in that role.
Yes.
Yul Brenner.
Yes.
Yeah, he's awesome. Oh yeah, he's totally awesome. But Telly Savalas is so known for being bald, and supposedly he shaved his head for that role because for whatever reason they're like, we need you to look different, whatever, and they decided to go with the shaved head. He liked the way he looked and just kept going forever
Oh,
with the shaved
wow.
head. But he shaved his head
Oh.
supposedly to be Pontius Pilate in Greatest Story Ever Told.
Oh, he must have done the Dirty Dozen before the Greatest Story then,
Did he
because
have hair in that?
yeah, I think he
Yeah,
did,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
He also played a crazy man. Allison is like, "What are these 2 talking about?"
I'm listening. I'm playing with the screens at the same time, but I'm listening.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So is that it? Is that but do you ordinarily like overall, do you enjoy the movie? I just can't.
Greatest story. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's probably like the least one for me. I mean, there are certain things that I mean I think I can get out of any Jesus movie. Like so, I mean, I think it like the resurrection scene in that movie encapsulates exactly sort of like its pros and cons for me. Because if you remember, the resurrection scene in Greatest Story Ever Told is basically the Handel's Messiah Alleluia chorus playing. So it's playing that whole sort of thing, and well done in a nice way. And it's got these nature scenes happening where like things are sort of exploding in nature. The idea, that Jesus' resurrection and all that's super, I think, beautiful. Like I think that sort of part of the resurrection is very powerful. But then the resurrected Jesus shows up, and it's so bizarre because kind of to your point, Maria, he just starts quoting scripture like from like the Sermon on the Mount, and it's like Jesus shows up and he just starts like quoting rando lines from the Sermon on the Mount as the resurrected Jesus, and you're just like, what
What?
the heck is going on? Like I think the last line of the movie, or sorry, the second to last line of the movie is "Don't be worried about tomorrow because today has enough trouble for its own." And it's like that's what Jesus said, but that's like the line that you're
Not
going to be
not the
saying.
context. I mean, I guess the worst thing that could happen is to be crucified. I don't You're right. It's just it's
It's
weird.
like really, really weird there. Yeah. So in that sense, the resurrection sort of encapsulates what I like and I don't like about that movie. But yeah.
Incredible. Well, I love that we go live with these, because everybody's watching Allison's reactions to to the weirdness.
I do. My face does not have a mute
You
button
know,
whatsoever. No
we'll
poker
play
for me.
we'll play poker next time.
Yeah, no,
So
no. Oh yeah, you'll win. I guess you want to play poker with me because I just don't have the face for it. I
I'm
just thought of. I'm sorry. Go ahead on.
no, please.
I just thought of a movie that we saw 2 years ago that was so fascinating, and I highly recommend it. It was called Jesus, a Death Missions Film. And we went to the theater and saw the entire Passion of Christ done in American Sign Language. There was
Wow.
very
Wow.
little. It was just, and there was just a theater filled with the deaf and hard of hearing. And okay, side note, going to the theater when there's really no noise coming from the projection and people are eating popcorn, really hard. Just gonna
That would be a different experience.
that was our Lenten penance, my husband and I, because we both have issues with noise with people chewing. But it was just for the first time ever watching my daughter, who is special needs. She is profoundly deaf, but she's also cognitively disabled. So explaining things to her is very difficult. And we've shown movies to her, The Passion of Christ, for instance, the less violent one, with the subtitles, but it was not the same as to see Jesus signing in her language.
Wow.
There was a few things that were a little weird, but like the crow, like it's very hard to do the crow noise when you're talking about all the cast being deaf. So they had like put the crow like right in Peter's face, which was, and it kind of just pops up on the screen. So my husband and I are probably trying not to laugh. And the other part that was very interesting and well done was he's crucified. Jesus is crucified. He can't use his hands, but
Wow.
they had him crucified, tied like at the wrists, so that he could sign. But it was still very well done, and
Oh
the
my God.
fact that he's so I highly, highly recommend this beautiful film, Jesus, a Deaf Missions film. So that is a family tradition I forgot that we had here.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
The more that we think about how we have to be really inclusive of everything, especially with evangelization, is a
Amen.
great moment. Well, I wanted to troll you guys with a crazy film, but I think that we need to address the Passion of the Christ as well. But I'm going to troll you first.
Okay.
I I think that in the last show I talked about how I think that the Sound of Music always becomes a Christmas show, a Christmas movie. The Wizard of Oz
Yeah, as Easter.
always plays for Easter.
Oh,
And so I started thinking about it, and it does have some like redemptive qualities to it that are, like the yellow brick road and the journey that we are on in Lent, and Dorothy, you know, um, yearning for the return home, as we all yearn to
yeah.
return home to God in heaven and things like that. So I don't know, as a family tradition, it always played, and every rendition of that movie, including the original, I think is just weird. Roald Dahl stories are all weird. So, but I associate those springtime movies, those Easter movies, with the Wizard of Oz as well, and it does have some elements of the story, evil, and and the overcoming of evil, and the virtues. All of the troop with Dorothy, they all aspire to these virtues that they
Mhm.
always had because they're gifts. And so, yeah, that was my troll. But I think that we need to talk about the Passion, right? Don't we? Shouldn't we?
Well,
Shouldn't we end it with
just
that?
just to kind of say just that I've never seen. Actually loved the book, the Wizard of Oz book. It's Frank Oz, right, that wrote that.
Oh yeah,
Um,
fabulous.
Yeah.
um, but it's just it really does have a lot of undertones of Christianity and of redemption and the virtues, and I just never thought of it in that light with Easter. So that was a good troll. That's not. I don't think that constitutes a troll. I think that's a mic drop.
Ooh,
Yeah,
ooh.
I'm trying to remember like when that's because I know that was always played around Easter time and when that sort of stopped. Like, or like when did it start and when did that stop in terms of them playing that on TV around Easter time? Because, yeah, like you're saying, it's not an obvious Easter film, but it has, good versus evil and all sorts of different themes that are there. But yeah, I don't know. I remember that, but I don't remember sort of like what era that was.
Probably with the new version with whatever this famous actor is, and that was just so weird. But I think that that's closer to the actual book, the
Oh,
one with what's his name? Gosh, what's his name?
I have not seen the new one.
Well, whatever. The Passion of the Christ. Let's end with that. Do you
Yes.
watch it? Do you rewatch it?
I've
I
probably seen it about 5 times.
wow.
It's our Good
I
Friday tradition.
Wow.
I I cannot. I cannot. I wept so hard through it. the first time that I saw it, and then I think it played. It played on like on Good Friday or something one year, and we watched it again. John and I did, and again I wept so hard. And and if you can believe it, it wasn't so much at the crucifixion as it was in that scene when Mary was sopping up his blood.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I thought, oh,
mine is when Jesus skins his knee as a child, and she runs to him as a mom of two boys. But Maria, the very reason you can't watch it is why I do watch it, because it's so easy for me to distance myself from what actually Jesus did for me. And that movie, I watched the with when my daughter's not watching, I watched the original cut, to see just what Jesus brutally went through for me. And if I had been the only person alive, he would have done it just for me. And that he took on all the sins that and so whenever like I think about, really think about what I'm about to do, I try to keep that in mind, like him on the cross, him, the whipping, the beating. For me, the scourging is like the hardest part. Obviously, crucifixion is awful, but that idea, like the whipping and the way that they do that, and like the skin being, like just how brutal. Because I think it's very, very easy, at least for me, to forget and to distance myself. We see the crucifix and we have nice cleaned up Jesus, right? We talked about clean Jesus, and we
mhm.
forget just he was brutalized so that I don't need to be. And that's exactly why I watch that every Good Friday, so I don't lose sight of what I'm actually what I believe and what we're celebrating.
Yeah, all of the Marion stuff in that movie is it. I mean, those probably are the parts that hit me the most. Like you said, Maria, when they sop up his blood with the towels, and I had learned later, I did not realize that supposedly that is actually an Orthodox Jewish thing. That wasn't just for the
Oh,
movie. That like if a person is killed in an accident or something like this, that in the Orthodox Jewish tradition, you will try to sop up the blood to bury with the person. That's all part of the person. That's what I've at least read since
Oh, that's
then.
interesting.
And kind of if you remember, sort of along the way of the cross, when Mary sort of clearly has this recognition of who this other shadowy person is, that this is really evil, that this is really Satan, and that she and that figure sort of almost have an eye to eye sort of showdown almost as they're walking along with Jesus. Just Mary's courage in that moment, and then kind of at the very end, the Pieta scene, which
mm,
I guess really, again, like someone else pointed this out to me, this was not something that I recognized, that the camera really turns so that you are seeing Mary like face to face in that, and that supposedly that was Mel Gibson really wanting to have Mary speak to the, each one of us individually in the audience and offer her son to us, as the sacrifice. Yeah, all of those Marion moments, and like you said, Allison, the flashback scenes with Mary, those are all really, really, I think for me the most powerful parts of that movie.
yeah. Well, okay, so I'm convicted. I was going to watch it anyway, but now I will watch it. I will watch it as prayer.
Think of it as a love
It
story,
is.
because it
It
really,
is.
this
Oh,
is
well,
it
it
is
is
the greatest love
absolutely.
story
It
ever
is.
told, right? Like when I think of it as the love story, I do have to admit though, there've been a few years I've watched it with a glass of wine and thought, this is probably not the way I'm supposed to. Just a confession. I don't know if I can be forgiven of that. And I'm sitting there going, this is probably not what I like what I should be doing. But
Oh. Well, back to that blood scene.
oh, now we lost Maria. Um, so the is there any particular part about that movie that like like I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you know this fact or not, Father, that Mel Gibson, he used his own hand.
And hands for the nails. Yeah, I had heard that as well. That's an incredible fact. And someone had talked, I think it was one of my classmates, I think it was my
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I wonder if I got him.
No.
Everybody left.
No, I'm still here. This is crazy. This is yes, we're talking about Jesus and this is gonna happen. Just saying.
Obviously so. Obviously so. Well, we're getting to the end of the show. We'll see if he pops in. But yeah, what a powerful, I guess, what a powerful film
So
to watch as a prayer.
so
And
Father was talking about we were talking about how Mel Gibson himself made sure his hand was one of them that they used. And Father, you're gonna make a comment about the scene about the crucifixion.
So just in general, that so with that idea that Mel Gibson's hand was one of the hands that nailed Christ to the cross, and one of my classmates, Father Steve Lacroix, had made the point when we watched that movie, because we watched that movie together at the novitiate, and he made the point that it really dawned on him that that entire movie was like Mel Gibson's Ignatian prayer,
Mm.
where you sort of imagine the scene and put yourself in the scene, and you're always encouraged, like, what character would you put yourself in? And the idea that the character that he put himself in the crucifixion, in the passion, was as one of the soldiers nailing Christ to the cross. That was how he saw himself in the passion scene, which is, again, just kind of I think a remarkable insight.
The Daughters of St. Paul do a thing called Cinema Divina. It's like Lectio Divina, the sacred reading, and then Visio Divina, like looking at sacred art and prayerfully looking at sacred art. But to prayerfully put yourself into the cinema you're watching, the video, the movie, and do those steps of what is this being said and where am I in this story. So that's really powerful stuff. And Maria, you were talking about the blood before you got thrown off. If I'm a listener and I hear this like again, psychologically, I need closure.
you would need closure. I was just thinking about how important the purification of the vessels is, Father.
Hmm.
And of course, you're wiping off the
What?
blood.
Yeah.
That's
Mm,
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, no, I never made that connection, but yeah, that is so true.
beautiful.
Wow.
I feel complete now.
You feel
Okay.
complete? Well, this has been a full show, a little longer than usual, but we need to do this again. We'll have you back again, Father. Maybe for a whimsical film episode for the summer.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you always for having me. It's always fun to be with you two ladies.
All right, and thank you, Allison. It's always great to have you back on here and have a regular connection. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. So we'll be back again next week with another Momcast. God bless.
God bless.